Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us all right?
Pardon?
Can you hear us fine?
I can hear you now, yeah.
That's
Are
fantastic.
we ready to get started?
Yeah, we are when you are. Yeah, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
We've got some questions from sort of a broad range of students, a sort of broad spectrum of questions on different things. But we're going to try and ask as many as possible in the sort of time frame that we have. So if we get started. Yeah, what does the election of Benjamin Netanyahu mean for the prospect of peace and a Palestinian state?
Well, there's a bit of confusion about that matter. Actually, Benjamin Netanyahu's administration, first administration in 1996, is the first one that he was even willing to pronounce the words Palestinian state. When Shimon Peres, who's considered a dove, left office in 1996, his parting words, very outspoken, were that there will never be a Palestinian state. When Netanyahu came in, his Minister of Information was asked by the press whether they would continue that policy of total rejectionism, which had been the U.S.-Israeli position without a break. And the minister said, well, we're planning to leave certain fragments of territory to the Palestinians, and if they like, they can call it a state, or they can call it fried chicken. That was the first acknowledgement of a state. The Labor Party basically never acknowledged the possibility. But the question always is, what do you mean by a state? Do you mean fried chicken, or do you mean what's been meant by the very broad international consensus that the U.S. and Israel have blocked for over 30 years? That first entered the international agenda in 1976 when the Arab states, with support of the PLO, brought a resolution to the Security Council calling for a settlement on the international border, the Green Line, in accord with UN 242, main document, but added to 242 that there should be a Palestinian state in the Israeli-occupied territories. Well, Israel refused to attend the session. The United States vetoed the resolution. It happened again in 1980. I won't run through the history, just take a crucial point. In 1988, the Palestinian National Council, the highest body, formally accepted the two-state settlement of the international consensus. And the U.S. and Israel reacted. A few months later, the coalition government of Israel, that's Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Shamir, issued a declaration saying, their words, there can be no additional Palestinian state between Jordan and Israel, meaning we declare Jordan to be a Palestinian state and there can't be another one. And the U.S. backed that. It's the Baker Plan of December 1989, said, yes, we fully accept the Israeli position. And so it continues up until the present. There's been one exception in the last 35 years, that in January 2001, it's the end of Clinton's term. At the end of Clinton's term, he issued what he called his parameters for a settlement, kind of vague, but more or less in accord with the international consensus. And then he gave a speech in which he said both sides have accepted the parameters, both sides have reservations. They met, top negotiators of Israel and Palestine met in Taba, Egypt in January to iron out the reservations, and they came very close to a settlement. In their last press conference, they said, with a few more days, we'll be finished. And there's a lot known about it. There's a lot of material in Hebrew and in English as well, so we know the details of it. But it was called off prematurely by Prime Minister Barak of Israel, and there's been no formal continuation since. So when you talk a bit right now, the issues between Israel and the United States are two things. Will Netanyahu pronounce the word state? And what will happen with the settlements? And it really doesn't matter whether Netanyahu or Obama or Bush or anyone else pronounces the word state. They have to say what they mean. Is it going to be the international consensus, or is it going to be fried chicken? And on that, they're suitably vague. In fact, not quite vague, because the U.S. has now endorsed the major annexation proposals of Israel in the West Bank, which everyone agrees across the board are illegal. Can't move in violation of the Geneva Conventions. In fact, Israel was informed of that by its highest legal authorities in 1967, and confirmed. It's been confirmed by Security Council, the World Court, and so on. So, but the Bush administration did authorize Israel to take over unspecified areas of the West Bank and annex them. We know what it means. I mean, Prime Minister Olmert described it to the Congress, joint session of Congress, called his convergence plan. In effect, it means that Israel takes over everything within what ought to be called the annexation wall. It's called a separation fence. Actually, an annexation wall takes over everything there, which is critically important. That means not only the nice suburbs of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv up in the hills, it means greater Jerusalem, which is vastly expanded over Jerusalem. And critically, it means taking over the aquifer, the water supplies. Israel now uses about, I think, 4/5 of them, according to a recent World Bank report. They're in the West Bank, but Israel uses them. And if they annex that in accord with the U.S. position, they get control of the water supplies. Also, the Jordan Valley, from which Palestinians are increasingly excluded, which imprisons what's left, and a couple of salients that run through the whole region, basically breaking it up into cantons. Now, if that's what you mean by a state, what's left, it's fried chicken. It's not a state. And Obama has indicated, hasn't said, but he's indicated that that's what he means. He's very evasive, but the clearest position that he's expressed was in his one declaration about Israel-Palestine when he appointed George Mitchell. He gave a talk at the State Department, and he went out of his way to welcome the Arab League proposal, 2002 Saudi proposal accepted by the Arab League, which was in accord with the international consensus, called for a two-state settlement on the international border, maybe with minor and mutual modifications. It's the terminology that was used back in the late 60s, U.S. terminology. And then the Saudi plan added that in the context of that settlement, the Arab states should move towards normalization of relations with Israel. Now, if you read Obama's statement carefully, he welcomed the Arab League plan. He said it was very constructive, and the Arab states should move forward right away with normalization of relations with Israel. But he knows what he understands. He can think things through, and what he omitted is critical. He did not include the core of their resolution. He just said, go ahead with the corollary, proceed to normalize. But he knows perfectly well that was not the proposal. And that can only be understood as an indirect way of saying that the U.S. continues to reject the core of the consensus on a two-state settlement. So what he's talking about apparently is fried chicken. Hasn't made it explicit. With regard to the so that means if there is a settlement, a political settlement in these terms, it means that Israel essentially takes over what Olmert described, Prime Minister Olmert, a couple of years ago as the convergence plan, what I just outlined, and that essentially leaves nothing. There will be areas, but totally unviable. There's an extra part of this which is even worse. There was a proposal from the extreme right in Israel. Avigdor Lieberman's now foreign minister. When it was proposed, it was considered virtually neo-Nazi.